The stench hit Marcus Chun like a physical blow as he descended into the slave pits of Kepler Station. Unwashed bodies, fierce sweat, and the acrid tang of neural collars burning into flesh created a cocktail that made his eyes water. His cargo hauler, the Defiant Mercy, sat in Dock Bay 7 with a hyperdrive that had given up the Ghost 3 jumps from nowhere. And his credit account showed a balance that wouldn't buy him a decent meal, let alone passage home. He needed crew. Cheap crew. The Vorthic slavers lounged in their biomechanical chairs, their chitinous exoskeletons gleaming under harsh fluorescent lights. They barely glanced up as Marcus approached, too busy counting credits from their latest sales. The holding pen stretched out before him like a vision from humanity's darkest nightmares, dozens of species crammed into cages barely large enough to stand in, their eyes hollow with despair or burning with futile rage. Looking for workers, human. The lead Vorthic's translator box crackled with static. We have strong backs, skilled hands. Very reasonable prices for your kind. Marcus walked the rows, trying to ignore the pleading looks and outstretched hands. A Centauri engineer with 3 arms and intricate tattoos covering his blue skin caught his attention, but the asking price was 800 credits. A human dock worker with cybernetic implants looked promising until Marcus saw the 1,000-credit tag hanging from his collar. Then he heard the commotion. 3 Vorthic handlers were surrounding a small figure in the corner pen, their electroprods crackling with energy. The woman, definitely human, was backed against the far wall, but she wasn't cowering. She was spitting. Careful with that one, another slaver called out, nursing what looked like chemical burns on his carapace. She's been modified. Acid saliva, enhanced bone density, probably military grade. Marcus moved closer, fascinated despite himself. The woman was maybe 5'4", with dark hair matted with grime and skin that bore the pale cast of someone who hadn't seen real sunlight in months. But her eyes burned with an intelligence that made the Vorthic nervous. One of the handlers jabbed his prod forward, and she moved like liquid lightning. Her hand shot out, grabbed the weapon, and before the alien could react, she'd twisted it around and jammed it into his thorax. Blue electricity arced across his exoskeleton as he collapsed, twitching. Enough! The lead slaver's voice boomed through his translator. Sedate her again. Wait, Marcus called out, surprising himself. How much for her? The Vorthic turned, their compound eyes glittering with what might have been amusement. That one? She's been nothing but trouble since we acquired her. Killed 2 handlers, escaped 3 times. And she keeps corrupting the other merchandise with talk of resistance. The woman's gaze snapped to Marcus, and he felt like he was being dissected by a laser scalpel. She was evaluating him, measuring him, deciding whether he was another enemy or a potential tool. 12 credits, the slaver said dismissively. Just get her off my station before she kills someone else. 12 credits. The price of a decent meal. Marcus had spent more on coffee that morning. Deal. The transaction took less than 5 minutes. The Vorthic were so eager to be rid of their problematic merchandise that they practically threw the neural collar deactivator at Marcus. As the device around the woman's neck powered down with a soft chime, she rubbed the raw skin underneath and fixed him with that penetrating stare. What's your name? Marcus asked as they walked toward the docking bays. Elena Vasquez. Her voice was hoarse from disuse, but there was steel underneath. Former Lieutenant Commander, Terran Engineering Corps, Terraforming Specialist, Atmospheric Systems and Planetary Infrastructure. She paused, studying his face. And you just bought yourself more trouble than you can possibly imagine. They reached his ship, and Elena's expression shifted from wariness to professional assessment. The Defiant Mercy was a Hercules-class cargo hauler, built for durability rather than beauty. Scorch marks from pirate encounters decorated her hull, and jury-rigged repairs were visible along her port side. Hyperdrive shot, Marcus explained, keying open the airlock. Need to get to Xerion Prime, but I'm broke and stranded. Elena stopped walking. Xerion Prime? You know it? Her laugh was bitter as recycled air. Know it? I helped design the terraforming systems. It was supposed to be humanity's crown jewel, a garden world that could support 10 million people. Her expression darkened. Last I heard, the atmospheric processors were failing and the colonists were dying. Marcus nodded grimly. 50,000 people, rationing oxygen and waiting for help that isn't coming. The Galactic Council says humans are too primitive to maintain the technology properly. Elena was quiet for a long moment, her fingers tracing the scars on her wrists where the neural collar had chafed. When she looked up, there was something dangerous in her eyes. I'm not crew, she said, her voice deadly calm. I'm your only hope. As they boarded the ship, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that he'd just made a deal with the devil. But as he looked at the repair estimates for his hyperdrive and the dwindling numbers in his account, he realized the devil might be exactly what he needed. Elena moved through the ship like she owned it, her trained eye cataloging every system, every weakness, every potential modification. She paused at the engineering console, her fingers hovering over the controls. Your hyperdrive isn't shot, she said suddenly. It's been sabotaged. Same signature I've seen before, microscopic alterations designed to look like mechanical failure. She turned to face him, and Marcus saw something in her expression that made his blood run cold. Someone doesn't want you reaching Xerion Prime. The implications hit him like a physical blow. If Elena was right, then the failing terraforming systems on Xerion weren't accidents either. Someone was systematically destroying humanity's expansion into space, making it look like human incompetence. Can you fix it? He asked. Elena's smile was sharp as a blade. I can do better than that. I can make sure whoever's playing this game knows that humanity just changed the rules. As the Defiant Mercy powered up with systems running smoother than they had in years, Marcus realized that 12 credits might have been the best investment he'd ever made. Elena Vasquez wasn't just a former slave or a terraforming engineer. She was a weapon pointed at the heart of a conspiracy that threatened every human world in the galaxy. And she was just getting started. The Defiant Mercy dropped out of hyperspace above Xerion Prime, and Marcus felt his heart sink. The planet that should have been a blue-green jewel was a sickly yellow-brown, its atmosphere choked with industrial pollutants and failing atmospheric processors. Orbital debris from abandoned terraforming platforms drifted like metallic snow around the dying world. Jesus Christ, Marcus whispered. Elena stood beside him at the viewport, her face carved from stone. 67 atmospheric processors should be running at full capacity. I count maybe 12 still operational, and those are running at 30% efficiency. Her hands clenched into fists. This isn't system failure. This is murder. The CUM system crackled to life. Incoming vessel, this is Xerion Prime Control. State your business. Cargo hauler Defiant Mercy requesting landing clearance, Marcus replied. We have an atmospheric systems specialist aboard. A long pause. Then, copy that, Mercy. You're cleared for landing Bay 7. Fair warning, we're on emergency oxygen protocols. Hope your specialist brought miracles. The descent through Xerion's atmosphere was like flying through soup. The air was thick with particulates, and Marcus had to switch to instrument flying when visibility dropped to 0. When they finally touched down, Elena was already suiting up in environmental gear. The air won't kill you immediately, she said, checking her scanner readings. But I wouldn't recommend breathing it for more than a few hours without filtration. Landing Bay 7 was a monument to human desperation. Makeshift oxygen scrubbers hummed along the walls, jury-rigged from spare parts and held together with prayer. Children played in the corridors wearing miniature breathing masks, their laughter muffled and strange. Adults moved with the careful economy of people conserving every breath, Governor Sarah Chun, no relation to Marcus, despite the shared surname, met them at the airlock. She was a woman in her 50s who looked 70, her face gaunt from months of rationed air and sleepless nights. "You're the atmospheric specialist?" she asked Elena, hope and skepticism warring in her voice. "I designed these systems," Elena replied simply. "Show me what's failing." The tour of Xerion Prime's infrastructure was a journey through humanity's slow-motion apocalypse. Atmospheric Processor Station Alpha had been the crown jewel of the Terraforming project, a massive complex that should have been converting the planet's toxic atmosphere into breathable air for millions. Instead, it wheezed and stuttered like a dying animal. Elena didn't just examine the machinery, she attacked it. Her hands moved with surgical precision as she tore apart control panels, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to work with components that would have electrocuted a normal human. Marcus watched in fascination as she pulled circuit boards and held them up to the light, her modified eyes seeing patterns invisible to others. "There," she said, pointing to what looked like a perfectly normal processing chip. "And there. And there." She'd identified 17 components in the span of 10 minutes. Nanoscale viral programming, designed to degrade system efficiency over time while leaving diagnostic signatures that point to human error. Governor Chun's face went white. "You're saying this was deliberate?" "I'm saying this was genocide." Elena's voice was ice-cold fury. Someone wanted Xerion Prime to fail, wanted humanity to look incompetent, wanted 50,000 people to die gasping for air. She held up one of the infected chips. "The programming signature is Vorthig, but the funding trail will lead back to the Galactic Council." Marcus felt sick. "They're killing us to steal our worlds." "Not if I have anything to say about it." Elena was already moving, her hands flying over the control systems. "I spent 3 years in slave pits, watching alien tech from the inside. I know how their systems think, how they breathe, how they die." She began rerouting power conduits with brutal efficiency. They designed these viruses to corrupt human programming. But they never considered what would happen if someone used the viruses as fuel instead of poison. The next 6 hours were a masterclass in controlled chaos. Elena worked like a woman possessed, rebuilding the atmospheric processor's core systems from the ground up. She didn't just remove the viral programming, she inverted it, turning the sabotage into a weapon against itself. The alien nanobots that had been slowly killing the system became the foundation for something entirely new. "This is insane," Governor Chun muttered. Watching Elena jury-rig alien technology with human intuition in ways that violated every safety protocol ever written. The manufacturer's specifications clearly state, "The manufacturers are trying to kill you." Elena snapped, not looking up from her work. "Their specifications are lies wrapped in technical jargon." She connected 2 systems that should have been incompatible, and sparks flew. "I'm not fixing their machine. I'm building ours." When Elena finally stepped back from the control console, her hands were bleeding from a dozen small cuts, and her environmental suit was torn in 3 places. But the atmospheric processor was singing, literally singing, as harmonic frequencies resonated through the crystalline components, in ways the original designers never intended. Atmospheric composition normalizing. The computer announced in a voice that sounded almost surprised. Oxygen levels rising. Toxin filtration at 112% of design specifications. Governor Chun stared at the readouts in disbelief. "That's impossible. The system is running above maximum efficiency." Elena's smile was sharp as a blade. "The Vorthek built their sabotage to exploit human limitations. But I'm not limited anymore." She gestured to her scarred hands, her modified eyes, her enhanced reflexes. 3 years of slavery taught me that survival means becoming something your enemies never planned for." The CUM system erupted with reports from across the planet. Other atmospheric processors were coming online as Elena's modifications propagated through the network. The air itself seemed to be changing, becoming cleaner and more breathable with each passing hour. Then the proximity alarm started screaming. "Governor Chun to the command center," came the urgent call over the intercom. "We have incoming ships. Galactic Council transponders." Marcus felt his blood turn to ice. "They know what you've done." Elena was already moving toward the exit, her expression calm despite the chaos erupting around them. "Good. I was hoping they'd come quickly." She paused at the doorway, looking back at the humming atmospheric processor. This was just the warm-up act. As they rushed toward the command center, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that Elena had been planning this moment since the day she was enslaved. The woman he'd bought for 12 credits wasn't just fixing Xerion Prime's atmospheric systems. She was declaring war on the galaxy itself, and from the look in her eyes, she intended to win. The Galactic Council fleet hung in Xerion Prime's orbit like a collection of predatory insects, sleek Vorthek dreadnoughts, crystalline Etherian cruisers, and the massive bioships of the Zephyrian Collective. 12 vessels in total, enough firepower to glass a planet. "This is Counselor Vex Thara of the Galactic Regulatory Commission." The transmission crackled through the command center speakers. "The human colony on Xerion Prime has engaged in unauthorized terraforming activities. You will cease all atmospheric modifications immediately and prepare for inspection." Governor Chun looked to Elena, who was studying the tactical display with the focused intensity of a chess master. "They can't just order us around, can they?" "They can and they will," Elena replied, her fingers dancing across the atmospheric control interface. "Unless we give them a reason not to." She turned to Marcus with that dangerous smile he was beginning to recognize. "Remember when I said I could do better than fix your hyperdrive?" Time for the main event. The first sign that something extraordinary was happening came from the planet's core. Deep beneath Xerion Prime's surface, crystalline formations that had lain dormant for millions of years began to resonate with Elena's hybrid technology. The atmospheric processors weren't just cleaning the air anymore. They were awakening something ancient and powerful. "Seismic activity increasing across all continents," reported the duty officer, his voice tight with concern. "But it's not random. The resonance patterns are organized." Elena's eyes gleamed with fierce satisfaction. "The planet's crystalline matrix is responding to the atmospheric modifications. Xerion Prime isn't just a world, it's a massive quantum computer that's been sleeping since the last ice age." She pulled up geological surveys on the main screen. The original terraforming surveys missed it because they were looking for resources, not intelligence. The transformation accelerated with breathtaking speed. Across Xerion Prime, humans began reporting strange sensations, enhanced clarity of thought, improved reflexes, the ability to process information at superhuman speeds. Children solved mathematical equations that had stumped their teachers. Engineers redesigned failing systems with intuitive leaps that defied explanation. "The atmospheric composition is changing again," Governor Chun reported, staring at readings that shouldn't have been possible. "Oxygen levels are optimal, but there are trace elements I've never seen before. Quantum active particles that seem to be enhancing neural conductivity." Elena nodded grimly. "The planet is sharing its intelligence with us. Every human on Xerion Prime is becoming part of a collective consciousness, not a hive mind, but a network of enhanced individuals." She gestured to the orbital display where the Council fleet was beginning to move into attack formation. "And we're going to need every advantage we can get." The first Vorthak assault shuttle launched toward the planet's surface, its weapons charging for what should have been a routine pacification mission. But as it entered the upper atmosphere, something impossible happened. The air itself began to fight back. Elena had weaponized the weather. Atmospheric pressure differentials created crushing forces that crumpled the shuttle's hull like paper. Electromagnetic storms, generated by the planet's awakened crystalline matrix, fried its electronics. The craft tumbled from the sky like a broken toy, its crew never understanding what had killed them. Impossible. Counselor Vexthara's voice carried a note of genuine fear. Planets don't have defensive capabilities. This one does now, Elena replied, opening a channel to the Council fleet. This is Elena Vasquez, speaking for the Sovereign. World of Xerion Prime. You have 30 seconds to withdraw from our space. Before we demonstrate why that's in your best interest. The response was predictable. The entire Council fleet opened fire simultaneously. Their combined firepower enough to sterilize a continent. But the energy beams never reached the surface. Xerion Prime's atmosphere had become a living shield, refracting and absorbing the attacks while the planet's crystalline core converted the incoming energy into fuel for its own systems. Atmospheric density increasing to deflect energy weapons. Elena reported calmly, as if discussing the weather. Ionospheric manipulation creating electromagnetic interference with their targeting systems. And she paused, her enhanced senses detecting something the others couldn't. The quantum field is expanding. Marcus felt it then, a tingling sensation that started in his fingertips and spread through his entire body. His thoughts became clearer, faster, more connected to something vast and ancient. Around the command center, every human was experiencing the same transformation. It's not just Xerion Prime, Governor Chun whispered, staring at long-range sensors. The effect is spreading. Other human colonies are reporting similar atmospheric changes. It's like a chain reaction across space itself. Elena's smile was radiant with terrible purpose. The quantum field doesn't recognize political boundaries. Every world I've modified, every atmospheric processor I've enhanced, they're all connected now. Humanity isn't just evolving on one planet. We're evolving as a species. The implications hit the Council fleet like a physical blow. Across human space, dozens of worlds were simultaneously becoming something unprecedented, planets that could think, atmospheres that could fight, and human populations that were transcending their biological limitations. This is an act of war against the galactic order. Vexthara's transmission was shrill with panic. No, Elena replied, her voice carrying the authority of someone who spoke for an entire species. This is evolution. And you can either adapt to the new reality or be swept aside by it. The Council fleet began to withdraw, their commanders finally understanding that they faced something beyond their comprehension. But Elena wasn't finished. As the ships retreated, Xerion Prime's atmosphere reached out like invisible fingers, touching their hulls with quantum fields that would carry the seeds of change back to their home worlds. What did you just do? Marcus asked, awed and terrified in equal measure. I gave them a gift, Elena said simply. The same gift I gave humanity. The choice to evolve or die. She turned to face the assembled humans in the command center, her eyes reflecting depths of intelligence that hadn't existed an hour before. The galaxy spent centuries keeping us in our place, treating us like children who couldn't be trusted with advanced technology. They forgot that humans don't just adapt to their environment, we remake it. 6 months later, Marcus stood on the observation deck of the Defiant Mercy, now serving as Elena's personal transport between the growing network of enhanced human worlds. Below them, Xerion Prime gleamed like a jewel, its atmosphere shimmering with quantum energies that made the planet itself a living entity. Elena joined him at the viewport. No longer the broken slave he'd bought for 12 credits, but something far more magnificent and terrifying. She was the architect of humanity's transformation, the mother of a new evolutionary branch that was reshaping the galaxy itself. Any regrets? She asked, her voice carrying harmonics that resonated with the quantum field surrounding them. Marcus thought about the Galactic Council's grudging recognition of human sovereignty, the dozens of worlds now awakening to their own consciousness, and the future spreading out before them like an infinite web of possibilities. Just one, he said with a grin. I should have charged you interest on those 12 credits. Elena's laughter rang out across the quantum field, carrying with it the joy of a species that had finally claimed its place among the stars.